One. Hello, we are live. Hi, this is PropTechBuzz and welcome here. And I am in PropTechBuzz. We usually talk to CEOs and founders from all over the globe and learn from them how they build, manage successful PropTech companies, and we glean insights from that. And I'm very excited to have with me a very excited guest. But before I reveal his name and introduce him, I would like all of you who are listening in to subscribe to this podcast channel, because if you are listening in, I'm sure you have interests in prop tech, and not just the guest today, but we have exciting guests as a marquee in the coming days as well. We have had guests in the past as well, so you do not want to miss out on all the content, because this is global. We get to have share insights, and we are gleaning them on this podcast. So please do take some time and subscribe to that. With that, I introduce my guest today. My guest today is Shajai Jacob. He's the managing director and country head of Apna Complex, Anacity, ANAROCK Group Business Services. Over the last 20 years, Shajai has had a diverse professional pursuits and given him the opportunity to build and lead some of the best known brands, both globally and in India. He has worked on business and financial management, sales and marketing, experience in real estate, banking and financial services, travel, aviation, FMCG, and retail consulting verticals. He has honed his business management, sales, and marketing skills at leading organizations such as ANAROCK Property Consultants, Jones Lang, Yes Bank, Kingfisher Airlines, Hindustan Lever, and Barista Coffee. So, as you can see, he has massive industry experience. So with that, let's welcome him. Welcome, Shajai, to PropTechBuzz. How are you doing today?
Hi, Ravi. Thanks a lot for having me on board PropTechBuzz. Certainly very exciting for someone who's transitioned from a very traditional economy business to a new age economy business, and that too on the property side and compounded with tech. It's certainly a very buzzy feeling, and therefore I am pretty gratified to be here on the show. Primarily because of the fact that I have heard good things about PropTechBuzz and the kind of lineup of speakers and the quality of topics, as well as the kind of industry following that you have. So really geared up and excited.
Excellent. Sajay, very, very excited here as well. So looking forward to the next 55 minutes of conversation. Let's see how it goes. But before we get into the meatier stuff, I see different entities. I see Apna Complex, I see Anacity, and then ANAROCK. So I'm aware of ANAROCK, even though there are lots of other people who might not be. Why don't you explain this setup of these three entities?
So ANAROCK is a homegrown Indian organization which was created in 2017, founded specifically for the purpose of providing services within the residential community. And therefore, it has a varied lineup of interests and business groups, right from residential sales. And this is where we work directly with the real estate developers in the country. And we have offices in about 16 different cities. We've straddled the entire life cycle of the residential real estate community, right from residential sales to leasing to capital markets, including, of course, several ancillary businesses, which are primarily core right now, on capital markets, on retail, on hospitality, and a lot of consulting. So ANAROCK today is a full-service residential services player. It is India's largest, business house, which is focused on adding value to every single stakeholder within the residential real estate domain. So that's what ANAROCK is today for you. And the genesis of ANAROCK was that it was going to be a tech-propelled business. It is going to be a tech-propelled group, empowered, supported, backed, and of course, leading through tech, which is a significant differentiator. And therefore, the pivot into Apna Complex. Apna Complex is a Indian-founded community management, or what we say society management platform, which governs the automation of operations in community societies, RWAs, in whatever part of the country that one is in, and whatever terminology is used, including ensuring that they are all upgraded in their tech life scale and lifestyle and life stage, However, Apna Complex was primarily based in India. It's present in across 123 cities. It is a mobile app environment which actually helps in automating the lives of residents and the managing communities and committees who govern these communities and societies and RWAs. So one of the facets of Apna Complex was that we took it international. We launched it in the Middle East.
Nice.
Given the brand name and nomenclature of Apna Complex, which is more suitable to the Indian subcontinent, we decided that a certain brand refresh and nomenclature change would be relevant to the Middle East markets, and therefore it is termed and called as Anacity in those markets. So essentially, it is the same product. So in a nutshell, Apna Complex and Anacity are both fully owned subsidiaries of the ANAROCK Group. And ANAROCK Group is the largest residential and real estate services player in the country. So that itself is an explanation. I hope
Thank
I
you.
was able to clarify.
Now I get it. Okay, Anacity is a rebranding for Middle East. Excellent.
It's just not a rebranding. There's a lot of customization which is also gone on. Customization has also gone on for the Middle East market, including, for example, the exchange, the currency exchange which is there, including the date time stamping which is there, some of the modules which have been customized in a bespoke manner for those markets.
Got it. And I was just talking to the guys from House Monk. There was a PropTech MENA. I do not know if you're aware. So there was a conference for PropTech MENA, which is Middle East and North Africa. So I was just wondering if you were there, because that's a conference meant for PropTech professionals and PropTech industries in Middle East.
Sure.
So I'm also aware Apna Complex has had multiple acquisitions. My question to you is, why was the acquisition for ANAROCK important to have Apna Complex in their portfolio?
So, like I said, ANAROCK is India's largest residential services player, and we don't claim to be the largest just because we have the largest amount of workforce or team or the revenues. Our ambition was and continues to be play in every life stage of the residential life cycle, whether it is buy, sell, collect, post sales, handover, interiors, fit outs, as well as the fact of value added services, which is when you're handing over. But most importantly, it is about how those societies are then run post the handover from developers. So we wanted to straddle the entire life cycle. And that is the reason why the Apna Complex business was extremely important for us and is a crucial juncture. So we sell in the ANAROCK Group, we sell close to 15 to 20,000 apartments annually.
Wow.
And when we do that, these apartments come up for, I would say, management and handover to these residents who actually buy them, or the investors who invest in them. So as and when they are handed over, then we wanted ANAROCK to play a key role at that juncture too. And therefore, when these communities are set up, ANAROCK and Anacity in their own specific markets do come in and help in automating the operations of these communities.
Just curious, how long has ANAROCK been in the industry now?
So ANAROCK was started and founded in 2017. Which is
2017. Okay. So that's fairly new and a massive growth post that.
Absolutely.
Nice. And when you say stakeholders, what kind of stakeholders? So developers, buyers, maybe investors. So everybody who's dealing with any kinds of residential.
So all stakeholders who participate within the real estate transaction spectrum. Right from development. So at the ANAROCK Group, we also have land monetization business, which actually helps in acquiring and monetizing land assets. So right from there, and even before that, to raise capital through our ANAROCK Capital business. Right. So when we move into such scenarios, the eventual stakeholder of all of these, or the eventual beneficiary of all of this, is the house owner or the investor.
Got it.
right? So when ANAROCK was fully mature after what 3.5, 4 years, we realized that just doing the sales and helping the developer develop or hand over to the apartment and then losing a connect with the eventual buyer is not really the right stage to be letting go of the life cycle. So that's the reason why we decided to play in this part too, and that's the reason why the acquisition was very essential for ANAROCK, and it's been a great acquisition so far. We've been able to add a lot of value. The other aspect is that because ANAROCK is such a large player within the real estate services industry, the fact remains that we are able to add a lot of value to Apna Complex. And this value addition through Apna Complex has been both in terms of scale and knowledge. And scale because we have relationships with developers across all the major cities, right? If we are selling that apartment cluster in a particular city for a particular developer, then we also help and assist the developer in ensuring that Apna Complex is launched in their projects, right? And therefore, you're going at the source of the entire community formation. And using this source, you're able to then increase the scale and reach and eventual usage of Apna Complex as a tech platform.
Got it. Yeah, very, very, very strategic because it is
Yeah,
clearly deeply embedded into the entire ecosystem, right? So
absolutely. So we are able to utilize Apna Complex right from the start of the conceptualization of the project, as well as the handover of the project to the facilities team once the project is completed, and before it is handed over to the eventual residents. So once the residents come on board, they don't have to basically struggle to find an app or to ensure their, and then there are various functionalities of the app also, which we'll get into later. But they don't have to struggle to it. They already have a made up service which is actually handed over to them on a platter, so it's easier for them to get into their property and then manage their properties. The second knowledge base has been on the transactions business. So ANAROCK typically has been a forerunner, or let me just add that it has been the original, I would say, creator of the mandate business model, which means that we work with developers at the ANAROCK group to take on exclusive mandates to sell their properties, to sell their real estate assets and residential apartments. So in a way, we are a B to B to C. So we work with the developer, and then the developer works with the consumer. So we come in as a strategic partner for developers. And because we understood the entire residential sales and marketing business extremely well, we could impart that knowledge to Apna Complex, but we didn't do residential sales and marketing. We decided that we will help societies and residents in these societies lease their apartments out. So the understanding of real estate is able to transcend into the understanding and the transactional know-how of how to run the rentals business within these communities.
Got it. Excellent. So before we get into, I wanted to understand what are the use cases you have provided for Apna Complex. But before that, why don't you share with us the figures and stats of the scale and reach of Apna Complex?
So I'll give you a brief background on the scale and the reach. Primarily, Apna Complex is present across 123 cities in India. We have close to 6.5 lakh apartments and households being managed on the platform. We have close to about, assuming that there are about 14.5 lakh downloads that you have in each of these markets. On the Middle East side, through Anacity, we have about 12,500 apartments already being managed through Anacity, so that's a significant cluster. We have been servicing, on the Middle Eastern side, cities and countries in Qatar, in Oman, in Africa too, and of course primarily within the UAE quadrangle. So there is a fair bit of work that's been done on that aspect. The platform typically, is used also to pass maintenance dues and collections worth about 600 crores of rupees, or 6 billion rupees if you want to qualify that. So that's the kind of monies which pass through the platform. And the platform is primarily utilized for a host of services. which essentially is useful for running the operations of these communities.
Excellent. Seems like it has. But by the way, I'm curious also to know the how long has Apna Complex been in the industry? Because I know you have acquired it, but how long has the tenure been for
Apna
Apna
Complex has been a 12-year, more than 12
company?
years in existence. So it is actually the forerunner and the founding member of the category of society management proptech.
Is it okay?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
also
So
aware that there are some competitors, but you are saying those competitors followed up with Apna Complex.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, so let's now dig deep into the use cases for Apna Complex. I do not want you to list out all the features, but maybe the prominent ones where what is the value proposition of Apna Complex? What are the prominent use cases? And also, I realized you have an NRI focused product. Is it based on Apna Complex or it's a different product altogether?
So interestingly, it's a good question.
Or maybe
What
maybe
happens?
we hold on to the NRI question later. You can start with the primary use
Yes,
case for Apna
yes,
Complex.
yes. So Apna Complex is a host of features, and these are all industry-leading, latest technology, value-adding features to the communities and the residents who stay in these communities,
Right.
right? And these are mostly gated communities. Um, the fact that there are a host of modules, prima facie, the more important ones which I want to talk about, visitor management, the entire access management, the entire communication that happens in the society. Visitor management happens when you can pre-authorize visitors to come in. You can track visitors incoming and outgoing. You can track attendance of your daily help. You can actually also regulate the access of vendors who come in. For example, if there's an Amazon delivery or if there's a Swiggy or a Zomato delivery, those are entirely part of the visitor management module. Then there is a complaint generation module, which is the fact is that the complaint today societies are and members are not keeping track. Most of them are not keeping track of complaints which are raised by residents. So using our platform, residents and you are able to raise complaints using the mobile application. That also through QR code based scanning, operations, and through which the complaint is escalated across several layers with predefined TATs. So no one can actually come back and say that we didn't hear about your complaint or we didn't get it, and essentially disrupting the manual way of keeping registers for complaints or for calling up a plumber or calling up a AC lift mechanic or something like that. Right? Even at the gate, the visitor access management is disrupting the overall record keeping and bookkeeping of attendance at the main gates of every society. So here you can, if a visitor is coming in, they can flash a QR code at the main gate. They generate an OTP which is keyed on to the gatekeeper application of Apna Complex, which then grants immediate access into the society. And approval is taken from the resident who is possibly at home. So it not only disrupts the traditional, the book which is kept to record the visitor's entry, but also the intercom, which is pretty irritating if it rings like 5 times a day and someone has to keep running to the phone to say, yes, please let him come in. So, and a mobile phone is, of course, the most handiest to have around. So there's a disruption there, there's a disruption in communication. Then, of course, in complaint management, and then, of course, communication, where there's a disruption that most communication in societies and communities happen on the notice board or, through an email which is sent across to most residents. Here, communication can be sent directly through the app with a record log. And everyone, but of course, will get a notification pop up on their mobile phones where they can actually read the notification. So that essentially it's a big handy tool. Then of course there are chats where residents can all come together. Typically WhatsApp has, and some of the most popular chat platforms socially have a predefined number, or from a maximization standpoint, Apna Complex has an unlimited number of people and residents who can join the app and the chat function, and they can chat within the group itself. And so because it happens to be the authorized communication chatting channel for the entire residence, the call logs, the chat logs, all of this is retained. And so one can't say that one is deleted or moved on or something like that. So these are very good records. The next is basically the polling and the elections. I mean, it helps to the app can actually help a resident community to elect their next office bearers. And this is in a very confidential and in a very closed user environment. And one can do it for towers as well as for the entire community together.
Wow.
So that it does that. Then of course is the heart of the platform is the bookkeeping, as well as the accounting and the overall audit ready reports which come out through the platform. A lot of accountants use Apna Complex to maintain records and accounts in societies. So that's a big one. Then of course the entire asset management. In large societies there are a lot of assets and inventory. So tagging each asset and inventory, including placing the AMC renewal dates on each asset and inventory, including putting in depreciation for it to show on the balance sheet of the and the P&L of the society. All of this is possible through Apna Complex. We even have quirky features like the water tanker monitor. India suffers from a lack of water in some or lack of river water or fresh water in some of the cities, and therefore depend a lot on tankers. So municipalities run out of water, so they depend on a lot on tankers. So using Apna Complex, one can actually measure the number of tankers that come in through the platform. And therefore it also has a certain, I would say, compliant governance module, which takes away the stickiness of unruly elements who operate in this business. So that's one. The second being the school bus monitor. So we see a lot of school children standing outside main gated communities in the hot sun or in the pelting rain, waiting for their school buses. So we are able to integrate the school buses with the app, which essentially also gives a notification to the parent that your school bus is like 3 minutes away. It's time to send your kid down to so that's like a reminder notification. Yeah. So these are some of the quirky things that we do. There is inventory management, asset management, QR code management, which means that if the lift is out of order, or if there's a light bulb which is not working, there's a QR code right beside it. Anyone who's walking around in the community with an app can actually scan the QR code and register the complaint. So that's and gets tracked at the central level. So there are huge, and so there are lots of resident, handy functionalities. There's a lot of real estate developer handy functionalities. For example, real estate developer never knows which is the right number of security guards to place in a community, right? Using Apna Complex, they are able to drive their costs low by at least 30%. Using the gatekeeper patrolling module, and this is where in the olden days you used to see one chowkidar, if you know this, and he used to walk around the entire neighborhood and he used to blow a whistle, or he used to have a little bell which used to alert people, and he used to walk in a predefined manner. So what we've done is we put QR codes across the society in a predefined manner, and your security guards have to go in and log in at particular times, and if they don't, then that's a missed opportunity. This means we know that the security guard has been sleeping. And therefore, then you can actually figure out through the platform as to how many security guards are optimum for a particular community. So that itself is a great opportunity. And obviously there are lots of other features which are there, which actually help a developer as well as a homeowner. Recently, we launched the rentals aggregation, which helps homeowners to list their property if they want to put it for rent on the app itself, and for tenants who are staying in the same society or in other Apna Complex society to see this listing on the app. And through digital matchmaking, which we do from an online offline perspective, as well as uploading it to property portals, we're able to also funnel demand to those landlords and therefore tenant the property out again faster.
So tenants as in prospective tenants, you mean?
Prospective tenants.
Okay. So, but how do they have access to Apna Complex app?
So either they're staying in a society which has an Apna Complex app.
Okay. Got it.
So we are seeing tenants moving in from an Apna Complex society in Bombay to an Apna Complex society in Bangalore, because they've been able to see the supply and they are the demand. Okay. The other aspect is that tenants who are also going on to leading property portals are actually seeing the listings of those apartments of Apna Complex, and then of course contacting the authorized person who's going to be the face of doing the transaction, and then they're able to go in and see and view those. So it's in a way expanding the options available to the investor and the landlord.
Massively comprehensive this is, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's
On
so
your
fascinating.
point on NRIs, NRIs can utilize the platform in two ways. One is if they're staying in the Middle East currently, they can be a part of an NACD community, and I would encourage them all to do that. Because there are lots of, I would say, players who are currently working with the NACD product. That's one. There are a couple of white labels that we have done, uh, which is in terms of with leading players like Majid Al Futem and Stratum. So if they are staying in those communities, they get to use the NST product.
Right.
And for homeowners who are staying abroad, could be someone like you and who has an apartment in India,
Right.
which has adopted the Apna Complex application, you can possibly pay your maintenance bills through the Apna Complex application. You can
Wow.
also put your apartment on rent through the Apna Complex application, as well as if there's you want to get in touch with the society, the security, or anyone, all through the Apna Complex application there is a huge possibility.
Oh wow, that is also something that stands out, because there are individual players who are catering to NRIs, but yours is becoming even more comprehensive in all use cases. So
Yeah,
that
and
is
of course, given the fact that there is a lot of developers there who are actually adopted our product. I took the names of a few, like Majid Al Futem, and of course, a service management player like Stratum in Nacity. In India, we manage the entire Lodha portfolio,
okay.
the Brigade portfolio, the Shobha portfolio. These are all leading large players within the industry, and of course, a lot of premium gated communities like Raheja Artesia, the Oberoi Group, M3M in Gurgaon, Emar in Gurgaon. These are all some of the leading and large names who we cater to, and therefore the dispersion of Apna Complex is quite varied. And we're present in almost every single metropolitan city, and of course, some of them not so metropolitan too.
Got it. Got it. Since the feature set is so broad and wide, many a times not all the features could be used or relevant to a certain either community or individual. I wanted to know, first of all, I wanted to know how does the pricing work, and who gets to, you don't have to reveal the actual price, but how does the pricing work in terms of who is getting to pay? Is it the tenant, or is it the landlord? Is it the society at large? Who is paying it? And then do they have options to pick and choose what they want to have in the Apna Complex feature set?
So we've kept because it's PropTech, and these are still stages of adoption.
Got it.
We've kept the pricing fairly simple, because when you're adopting a product, if you keep the pricing too complex, as it is, the product itself has got so many layers.
Right.
We didn't want to create another layer of pricing, so we've kept it absolutely flat.
Right.
There is a price which is to be paid per apartment per community, which is actually fronted by the management committee. They take a benefit, or the developer, they take a decision on behalf of the community.
Right.
And it is a certain price per month, which is actually very, very low. It's in the range of 15 to 20 rupees per month, and this is per apartment.
Wow.
And this is paid for by the apartment complex, and paid on an annual or a biannual basis.
Got it.
And of course, this is though of course Apna Complex and Anacity have a fairly different pricing scheme. Both and each market will have its own pricing scheme. In Anacity, we charge on an annual basis, and we charge the OEM service providers.
Got it.
So which in turn, of course, levy it on the community. But essentially, it's a flat price. The community pays for it, and the value add is quite discernible to them.
And they get the entire set of features. There is no tier
And
based.
yes, absolutely. Sorry, I just missed out on that. The features are not layered as per the price. There is one price for all the features.
Got it.
So if one community decides, so there were 12 to 16 features. If the community decides to take just two features, they pay for the same price. But we actually help them to upgrade and upscale all those features.
I
and
see. Got it.
for the community.
Got it. So
Because
you
it's only when the full product is taken
right.
does it actually become far more useful to the community and to the residents as a whole.
Yeah, it maximizes its utility,
Yeah,
isn't it? So
absolutely.
excellent. Let's shift gears here. I wanted to get into a little more detail because I was very fascinated by your blog post decoding the rental boom. So help me understand, because you have been in the industry. I'm sure you are sensing a trend which others might not, others who are not in the industry maybe. So help us summarize the rental economy and the boom that you decoded.
Uh, so the rental business in India is close to $20 billion. That's the value of the rental business in India, right? Amongst that, 13.5 to about $14 billion is in the metropolitan or the core cities,
Mm,
right? Um, there is no established player, or there is no one single disruptor who's actually adding value to the rental community. It is
mm,
still left, and all of this value is still left to the unorganized sector
mm,
to participate in,
mm,
which is your household neighborhood brokerage store,
mm,
right? There is no professional outfit which actually tracks the rental yield per apartment or per
mm,
community and tries to ensure that the rental yields increase.
mm,
And the direct beneficiary of rental yield increases is, of course, the capital value increase of the apartments,
mm. Right.
right? So we sensed an opportunity here. And given the fact that Apna Complex is a residential community management app,
Mm,
as well as the fact that it is downloaded to help in various functionalities of running those gated communities.
mm,
And one of those functionalities also is if someone wants to book a tennis court, or
mm.
someone wants to book a slot at the squash court, or someone wants to even book a swimming pool routine, right? So it helps right down to the nitty gritty. So it's essential for usage when staying in gated communities, but at the same time, if it also helps the landlords in these gated communities and tenants in these gated communities reach out to one another,
Mm.
right, to fulfill their latent demand for apartments.
Got it.
And typically we see that the typical size of a renting period, or the entire the time period for renting period is about 24 months.
Hmm.
So given all of these facets, we thought that it would be interesting and useful and value adding to residents if we are able to cut down the time that is taken for doing these rental businesses, ensure that supply and demand is met through digitally,
Mm.
as well as ensure that there is a financial upside by keeping the yields high for the landlord, and therefore in turn bringing the capital values higher,
Right.
and obviously increasing the value of the society. So if it's a professionally managed society where we have a rental mandate to manage to ensure that the society does not have a lowering of the rental yields, so
Mm.
that over time we see that the capital values increase.
Got it. And
So
it's not just one side of the equation. It's not just increasing the rental yield and the value for the landlord. You're also increasing the experience, residential experience of the tenant,
absolutely,
both sides.
absolutely, I'm sure. So I mean, typically outside every single gated community in India, you see about 40 kinetic Hondas which are parked outside, which are all those brokers,
Mm.
and you're also able to see, Mofassal people walking in and out who've got no business being in a society, and you have kids playing in the society, elderly people. So
Mm.
to avoid, all of these, I would say interactions, it is better to have a professionally managed setup which
Right.
actually transacts on the rental side using technology
Right.
to add value to both landlords and tenants. Even from a tenant side, tenants today, when they're moving within societies, they're always trying to find out, if I'm staying in A block and I would like to know, if there is an apartment available somewhere on the B block, and someone in Apna Complex puts it on their app, then
Mm.
they can quickly contact each other and get the apartment viewed as well as moved in.
Got it. Excellent. I also wanted to understand the rental. So you gave a good analysis of how this is helping making the rental experience better. But what about the trends? Are we looking at more and more people going the rental route? Say in India, I mean, what do you see? Is it like the next gen is more inclined to live in rental space for longer periods of their lifetime than
That's a very
owning
interesting.
properties?
That's a very interesting thought. Renting rentals is never going to go away. It
Mm,
is always going to be the majority, um, proven, I would say, transaction model or
good.
business in the country. Primarily because of the fact that you can see the amount of reverse migration which is happening. We saw reverse migration in COVID. After COVID 19 in 21 and 22, we've seen migration back to the primary cities.
Mm,
With that migration to the side cities, and with, of course, people coming in search of newer jobs, as well as job creation happening, and the way that India is becoming a superpower in the next coming decade. I mean, it is India's decade for the next 10 years. So at the end of the day, rentals will never ever fall through in
mm,
terms of the fact whether more and more youngsters will want to buy their own apartments. Yes, they will buy their own apartments, but we are seeing that the first 2 to 3 years they prefer to stay on rent, and
mm,
then possibly see what their ecosystem is, determine a more friendlier place to stay, which is the neighborhood, determine their affordability,
mm.
as well, of course, their home loan taking capability, and then, of course, utilize it for buying an apartment.
Got it. Do we have a number? I mean, do you have like number? What percentage of the Indian population is under rent, and or is it still vague to have a
So
number on that?
that number is still vague, primarily because of the fact that no one actually tracks rentals in the country.
Got it.
But given the manner in which we are scaling up, I think in about a year or 2 years we will have that research with us. So
Yeah, that would
possibly
be
if we do this
interesting.
again the next time, I'll have that number with me. Given the fact that we are also now scaling up on this aspect.
Got it. And I
But I
suppose.
can say that within a particular community, I can give you some statistics from a community. From an
Mhm,
average renting perspective in a community, about 40% of a particular community, of a mature community,
mhm.
uh, is tenanted.
40% is rented, 60% is landlord owned, lived,
60% is self-owned and
self lived also. Mm.
self-use.
Okay, self used. That's a
Self-use.
that's a substantial number. No, 40%
That's a
is
substantial number, but we see this in a newer society,
mm,
in a just recently handed over developer community.
mm.
We can see rentals up to 60%.
Okay. The owners would take some time to move, maybe
Correct. Or
um,
they are already staying somewhere else, and
in somewhere else.
they wouldn't want to disturb there, but they've taken an asset on
Got it.
as an
Yeah,
investment, which they would want to tenant out. So,
got
so the number at any point of time will oscillate between 60 to 40, depending on the maturity and aging of that society.
got it. I also read an article on your blog about hyper local business and Apna complex. Okay. Do you want to shed some light there? I mean, are there amenities or hyperlocal businesses that you are also capitalizing on maximizing the benefits to connect it to these societies?
Yes, yes. It's a very interesting question. What we're trying to do is to ensure that all these small businesses
Mm,
which operate in the vicinity of a society
mm,
get access to the residents in the society,
mm,
as well as the residents in the society, for all their daily requirements, can access those neighboring or
mm.
a catchment of
Got it.
vendors and stores, which leads to a very healthy ecosystem.
Right.
And it's a very transactional ecosystem. So it leads
And
to that.
efficient. And
That's
efficient.
a
Yeah.
very efficient, very optimized, and productive. So there are cleaning services, there are cab services, there are services like pest control and painting services. So it's not just hyper local, but it is also about connecting the large brands who actually want to enter the society, because the consumption is inside the community.
Hmm.
So using our app, one is able to ensure that the service is first marketed to those apartments, and then of course delivered.
Got it. So, do you have some kind of a marketplace where where the tenants could sign up and look for which vendor
So
to
it's not
provide?
exactly a sign up which is required. Once you're signed up on the Apna Complex app and you download it on the phone, you're
Hmm.
able to access a wide variety of pre-curated offers from
Got it.
each of these players.
And they just avail that offer. That's how it is. They pay,
Absolutely.
and they pay the services within the app.
Yes, they pay the service fees directly to the vendor, and the service provider. It utilizes the payment gateway which is there on, and it's a very e-commerce kind of transaction which happens. So essentially, Apna Complex also helps in commerce within the society. So that's the reason why we call it hyper local commerce.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you for sharing all the insights about Apna Complex. Now that we have understood that, I would like to extrapolate this graph towards the future, and you are best positioned to see what the future is looking like. So, where do you see the future of apartment and community management, and what more disruptions we could possibly see in the coming years?
So I think the entire sector of apartment and community management is set to really explode. Um, it is going to disrupt every single facet of living in community management with the advent and increased adoption of IoT, and the integrations of IoT with the community management app. There will be far more value to residents. For example, look at I mean, if you can get your boom barriers of your parking raised as you come in through the Apna Complex app, which it
Right,
can do right now.
right.
If you can use it to make sure that the air conditioning is on. If you can actually use the Apna Complex to check whether your car has been cleaned every day in the morning, whether you can also operate the Apna Complex app to order from the community department store,
Mm,
right? If there is an API integration there, so all of these are set to really scale up within the Apna Complex ecosystem. And
correct.
given the fact that you have an ONDC2, which is an open network for digital commerce, we are toying with that idea. And not to forget the payment of all utility bills, which can happen through Apna Complex, whether it's your rent, it's your electricity, it's your gas, it's your water, and including phone recharges, and of course a whole lot of the other varied utility services which are there. I mean, all of which can happen through Apna Complex, as well as payment gateway intervention. So, having said that, the entire perspective on Apna Complex and the community management is about how to seamlessly integrate with the lives of its residents, adding value, and ensuring that we can be present at every juncture. Just imagine how wonderful it would be if a bagel could be toasted and the espresso machine doling out fresh cappuccino as soon as you get out, open your eyes and in bed and put on the Apna Complex app and send a message through it to the coffee machine and to the oven.
Right, right. So you want to also get into the kitchens and the bedrooms of the apartments, and that will be
So I think
seamless.
we're
Seamlessly.
I think we're already in the kitchens and the bedrooms. I mean,
Oh, you're already.
I approve my maids coming into the apartment at 6 a.m. in the morning because I'm there, with my Apna Complex app. And of
Nice.
course, the maid's attendance is also tracked through the Apna Complex app, so that therefore they're already in the kitchen. So I think
Mm,
IoT is going to be the next big game changer.
got it.
And IoT has not really taken off in India so far.
Mm,
It's taken off at the community level. For example, water meters and electricity meters, all of these have actually been integrated with Apna Complex and other community management apps. But what we see could be the next advent of, getting into the automation of every single small thing available. And with the propensity of people to knock off apps off their phones,
right,
which are not useful,
right.
I think we will also be compelled to get into integrations with IoT players and, of course, add more value.
Got it. My other question was your expansion plans. So you are in Middle East now. Are there plans for other countries as well?
Of course, the good part about Apna Complex and Anacity is that, and here I want to talk about expansion, both geographies and sectors.
Hmm.
When I'm talking about geographies, since you've spoken that about first, geographies would mean that Apna Complex would be present in India, subcontinent, of course. The Middle East was a very natural market to get into because there was a lot of adoption of tech. It's a tech-friendly zone. There is a lot more inclination for products which are, really the latest and up the curve. And therefore, on the community side, it was actually a no-brainer for us to get there. Now that we are firmly embedded in that market, I think penetrating deeper. Africa also is a big market that we would look at, and then of course the UK and the US, and of course the Asia Pac markets are something that we are looking at. From a sector specific, the platform is agnostic. I mean, the fact that it can help govern a fragmented dwelling of units, which is a residential community, vis-a-vis an entire commercial office tower. And if you can do that, just imagine the pleasure of someone having an Apna Complex app, which gets him access into his own office, as well as helps him to approve the notifications which come for someone's access into his apartment. Right? So
So you're
all
not
of these
restricted. You're right. So I thought your identity was residential real
it
estate.
is, but we're actually seeing that the resident is not just a resident in a society, the resident is also present in a commercial office building. So I'd rather build a use case for him to, because he already has the app downloaded.
Got it. Got it. Okay, but it is not going to be asset management for the commercial. Not that kind of a use case wherein
No, it's not.
you
We will not be getting into facility management
facility
or
management.
or property management over there,
Got it.
which is the domain of specialized players,
Got it.
and we are keen to stay within our own ambit to work with large real estate developers who want to offer a special value add and a service to their tenants in their buildings.
Excellent. So when you said geographically, you already mentioned sectorally. You meant to say that when an individual is going to his office, he should be also. So that is the sector that you added, right? Okay, excellent. Cool. That brings us to the end of a fascinating conversation with Shajai. Thank you, Shajai, for giving us detailed insights into this industry. Very, very fascinating. I'm from Europe. We do not have a concept of societies here. There are still open apartments, houses. Just curious, as a ending thought, do you see Apna Complex playing a role in non-society based, cluster based, dispersed houses, or it is more tied to the
Absolutely.
story of communities?
So there is a use case. There are plenty of use cases because someone manages these clusters.
Got it.
Whilst they might not be gated,
Yeah.
someone manages these clusters. There might be a common body or an institution managing these clusters,
Right.
right? And therefore, the need for communication, the need for complaint management,
Right.
the need for access management,
Is always
all of these are use cases which can definitely be utilized.
excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. So, thanks again, Sajai, for giving us your time, a valuable time, and sharing your wealth of knowledge. We appreciate your effort here. See you around.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sajai.